Thanks for watching the Daily Debate live here on Nile International. Well, actually, whether terrorist organizations are behind Sunday's attack or it is as the Brotherhood and Hamas have claimed a Mossad attempt to hinder Egypt's democratic process, but definitely security in the Sinai Peninsula is considered to be a pressing issue, not only for President Mohamed Morsi, but for Egypt at large. So hence came now the importance of addressing problems facing the peninsula and how to integrate its people among the Egyptian society. This is going to be our topic for tonight. We have with us a very distinguished panel to discuss this important issue. Dr. Reverend Safwat bayaddi, President of the Evangelical Churches in Egypt. Thank you very much, Dr. Safwat.
You're welcome.
For being here. And also we have with us General Magdi Shehata, who is a strategic expert. Thank you very much, General Magdi. And Mr. Akram Bastawi, international economic expert. Thank you very much, Mr. Bastawi.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back to discuss this important topic. First, a report that highlights the situation, and stay tuned.
The Sinai bloody attacks by unknown assailants on Egyptian border guards in the Sinai Peninsula is being heralded as another example of the deterioration of security situation in the peninsula. Whoever is responsible, the attacks were not isolated events. The attack is preceded by the alleged rise of jihadist groups and increased reports of the seizure of smuggled arms in the Sinai region over the course of the last 18 months. Egyptian state television has speculated that these organizations, possibly colluding with the Gaza-based groups, are behind Sunday's broader attacks. Post-revolution extremist groups found a fertile environment. They have framed and infiltrates the major tribes, and they now have the power to threaten anyone who touches them. Observers believe there are two principal jihadist movements in Egypt, both based in Sinai, but with country-wide reach: Takfir wal-Hijra and Salafist jihadism. Both factions adhere to an extreme Salafist interpretation of Islam, following Al-Qaeda's philosophy and goal of re-establishing an Islamic caliphate. However, experts believe that Al-Qaeda itself does not exist in Egypt. North Sinai government Abdel Wahab Mabrouk, who also denied the presence of Al-Qaeda, also affirmed the presence of extremist religious groups. A young political activist from Sinai recounts the origins of the problem in the peninsula. He says that security officials used the route for arms smuggling, from which they raked in huge profits, adding that they introduced the Bedouin tribes to the trade. The activist explained that following the security breakdown in the wake of the revolution and easy access to Libyan arms, Bedouins took over the trade in North Sinai. Now it is all well taken more than just governorate security forces to deal with the trade. Particularly ominous is the growing domestic market for arms. Whether terrorist organizations are behind Sunday's attack or it is, as the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas have claimed, a Mossad attempt to hinder Egypt's democratic process, security in the peninsula is a pressing issue for President Mohamed Morsi. In fact, a government report in 2010 said a quarter of all Sinai's population of some 600,000 did not carry national ID cards. This feeling of disenfranchisement and state neglect, many say, has contributed to the problem. Sensing the urgency of the problem, the former government of ex-premier Kamal Ganzouri granted amnesty to some jailed extremists and called for the revival of several local development projects, including a railway and canal to supply water to central Sinai. Growing tensions and the spread of arms are also connected with tribal disputes. There is an economic dimension to the problem. Many speak of the oppression young Bedouins face, including arbitrary arrests.
Well, as we saw, the report actually highlighted the challenges that is facing Sinai and the Bedouins, and here comes the need, of course, to integrate them in the Egyptian society at the first place, and also to understand the ailments of the society in Sinai. I'll start with General Magdi Shehata, our strategic expert. General, through the eyes of an expert, how do you see this heinous crime that has happened in Rafah? What sort of messages did the enemy, whoever had committed this heinous act, wants to direct, and what sort of lessons have been taught after the incident?
Actually, it is something we're not used to hear about it. This is the first time this accident happened against the army. Before it was against the tourist, against a police group, something like that. But this is the first time happened against the army. And this is like a message from some countries, not we can say some people or some Bedouin do that as belong to Islamic or something, some Hamas or any kind of Islamic group. But this is behind this accident. It's planning from country or intelligence belong to some countries around the area. It's not as Israel. I think this is one of these countries planning to make this trouble and put a first problem between the army and the new president to see what's react or we to see what's the kind of react. Always we put under this kind of react. They make action and they expect what's the kind of reaction. And most of the time our reaction is not because it's coming in hasty, not in after studying and after it always most of the time is not correct 100% or at least 50%. This is in my view the first. This is problem. Try to put it in that time, in this time, and you can. It's this time also is critical. It is in Ramadan and time of fast, breakfast, and against the army. This is a new issue we're facing against planning from outside country. I'm sure countries not as tribe or Bedouin or kind of this issue.
Right, General, and actually many clues that we can read from this incident. Dr. Reverend Safwat bayaddi, your message through, I know that there are always sermons and meeting with the people of the evangelical churches. What was your message after this heinous crime? Usually your messages are those of unity and solidarity at critical times.
I think my experience with the Bedouins in Al Arish, as example, when we started having a center there 15 years ago, they are simple people. And I think they need to be cared for. Probably we are indebted to them. They lived far away, not even have all the facilities as we do have in the valley. For some times we were under the Israeli regime when they invaded Sinai. So a lot of problems they have. I don't think they have good education. They don't have even medical care. So we need, before we expect them to unite with the valley, with the rest of the country, we need to care for them first, to show them our care, how to develop those people. They are living under primitive, almost primitive life there in the small areas. So before we condemn the people, we have to serve the people first and raise their standard and give them ministries and services in medical service, education, good education, housing, good housing. Then they can be affiliated with the valley and be a part of it. Even they will be our eyes and our guards. If they are united to the valley, before we care for them, we give them their dignity, how to honor them, then we can be sure that they will be our guards there to protect the country from anybody coming to invade us here. So before we condemn them or blame them, we have to serve them and give them what they need.
Right, you are Dr. Bayaddi, and I guess that this is the key here. before asking for, there are duties, of course, but there should be, I guess that there should be rights first. They should have the rights and a sense of care for them, a sense of integration into the society comes from giving them the rights first. Mr. Bastawi, how can we actually let them feel that they are part and parcel of the local development process in their society? How can we economically eye Sinai Bedouins from your perspective?
I think that the whole context of Sinai is rather complex. But to keep it simple, one of the problems is that I think that the rest of the country has to stop looking at Sinai as a place where the Bedouins of Egypt live. I think it's a disservice and a dishonor to the thousands of Egyptians who died trying to recover this territory and all the strategic and major milestones of the past 20, 35 years in order to recover Sinai and get that back for Egypt. It's not simply symbolic. I think that the economic integration of Sinai into Egypt is not simply looking at the Bedouins, but rather looking at this as a part of Egypt which has not been developed. There's no reason why there shouldn't be 2, 3, 4, or even 5 million Egyptians living there, both Bedouins and who are native to Sinai, and Egyptians from the rest of the country. If you look at the national security frameworks of many countries, especially the economic dimension of national security, the ability to have mobility geographically within a country and demographically, the ability for people to move across a country and to live within its borders is part of what creates a stronger and more united fabric. And I think that that alludes a lot to what Dr. Reverend said and also what General Magdi said as well. From an economic perspective, then it would really simply be to start by saying, first of all, we should stop looking at it as a place where the Bedouins live and rather look at it as a huge investment opportunity. Its location is absolutely strategic. It's a peninsula with an entire side of it that's along the Suez Canal. And to be very frank, over the past 20 or 30 years, I'm aware from my own work in the past decade or so that there have been several opportunities for investment in Sinai that have not transpired and not taken place. And alluding a little bit to what my fellow colleagues have mentioned, there are different reasons and there's a dynamic that has prevented Sinai from receiving investment, both from within Egypt and from outside. And I think we have to tackle this. The starting point is to stop looking at it as where the Bedouins live. Start looking at it as a part of Egypt.
Right. General Magdi, actually there are always claims these days, and especially after the revolution, that there is some sort of a security vacuum in Sinai. How can we refute those fears, and how about the situation on solid grounds there?
You blame United States, you say?
No, I'm saying that there are actually claims that there is some sort of a security vacuum in Sinai.
Yes.
How are we dealing with that security vacuum if it is present on solid grounds?
Yes.
And what is the situation on solid grounds? I mean, how far is this true?
Actually, you know the peace agreement. Yes, it talks about the 3 areas or 4 areas, A, B, C, D, as a agreement between Israel and Egypt during the it's not bad as a situation because it can cover everything, but we need now little bit change in this agreement to cover the area C, some army to secure. This is for us and for Israel. But more than to put army and this kind of this issue, we have to secure the Sinai by what they say, gentlemen, doctors, about the development area, how to deal with people, how to treatment these people as a human being, not as a Bedouin, and they do something wrong, something another people, not in Egyptian people, this is another people. This is much better than to change in everything, in armies and the numbers and this kind of to secure the area by development, by economic, and arrangement a good investment in the area. It will protect the area from anything. Israel tried to put some problems in the area to try to isolate the area, to make it an international problem, and to interfere by United States groups or something like that, to prevent us to exploit the area to investment and put a lot of investment in the area and to involvement in the area and bring Egyptian from the valley to that Sinai. It's very important. And by the way, I lived about after the war, during the war, spent about 7 months behind the enemies in Chennai. I live with Bedouin. They helped me a lot. I know I lived with them for 6 months after the war, and they tried to help me. They helped me a lot to hide me from Israeli troops or this kind of things. I live and find they very, very nice people. They have own customs. They have own. They have dignity, and they're very regular people, and they won't feel that they are Egyptian.
They need a sense of belonging to the place, and especially the issue of land ownership. This is considered to be the bulk of the situation.
We have to study all this issue. To solve the problem as a problem, as a whole the problem, not by we divided the problem also. We always divided the problem to solve one by one. No, we have to put big plan for the problem and try to solve it economically and by socially, and by this way we can solve the problem as a whole.
Right.
Not like to put more group or more than something like that.
Right. Dr. Reverend Safwat bayaddi, you said that there is a center for the evangelical churches in Sinai, so probably you are in contact with those people who are in charge there, and at the same time they know quite well the nature of the people and their societal needs.
I think 15 years ago we started building this camp, a center there. One person called Brother Muhammad, who is caring for the place, and nothing, we didn't feel anything bad. We used to send our students to spend their summertime, groups coming from all over the country, from our schools. We didn't feel any harm. They protected the place. They bring all the needs we need. During the winter, we don't go, but they keep it. We didn't feel that anything was broken, nothing was stolen. They are very honest, and Brother Muhammad, he takes care of it. Maybe he doesn't live there, he lives in the city, but he goes, he has his eyes on the place there. So if you give them their dignity, they feel that they are owners. I don't think that they own the land.
They don't.
The law says that you can use it, but you don't own it. And they have papers. They showed me the papers, very old papers, but not registered in our ways. It is a Bedouin or a desert rules there. They have papers signed by maybe 50 years, 150 years ago. And sometimes they want to sell it to somebody or to use. No. It is the Egyptian government land. And you are just living. If you don't feel that the land belongs to them.
There is a sense of belonging,
Nothing
they don't feel
to feel it. They feel that they are strangers, only contemporary living there, but they don't own it. If they don't own it, they will not keep it. While during the Israeli presence there, I think they dealt with them. So they know them very well. If we don't give them their ownership and somebody nearby attracting them and giving them what they need, what we can do? The other problem, we hear about the tunnels, hundreds, thousands, and things are going and coming. How did we leave these tunnels to be digged and used for years, and now we are going to break down all it and unblock it, I think this will harm them too, because they are living, selling and buying.
It has become a way of life.
We have to give them something better. If you want to let them avoid this trade, as example, gives them something better than what they have, so they can feel that they are cared for, they are part of the country, they are not, as we heard, Bedouins, not Egyptians.
Stereotyping them, I guess, is also considered
we put
to
them
be
in a corner like this, and they are different. I think this is not only the desert, the Sinai, but maybe some other, like the Nubians, as example. Our committee and the Constitution Committee, I think they were in Nubia, in the Nubians area, and they felt the same. And they came back and said, the Nubians say that we want to separate, to have our own nation there. This means that they don't belong to the country. They don't feel that. Nobody's caring for them. If you go there, they are very primitive, no services, no good hospitals. What do you expect of people like that?
Right. Question to you, Mr. Bastawi, and knowing the nature of the people, how simple they are, and the services that we need to extend to them. If you were in charge, what would be the plan of action to address them economically?
Well, I think that really one would start on two levels. First, there's been a lot of work that has been done that is often, for lack of a better term, overlooked or put into drawers and forgotten about. The military, for example, the Nasser Higher Military Academy put on a very large research program with their Center for Strategic Studies and Research a couple of years ago. Perhaps General Magdi can enlighten us more about it. And there were several dozen studies presented, including a full integrated framework. There's a civilian expert, Dr. Isam Darwish, who's also linked with the Social Fund for Development, who has spent a great deal of time researching this. And there are dozens and dozens of people who've spent a lot of time. So the first thing to do would be to take a look at what has happened in the past from a research perspective, that we can say, well, what have people seen that can be done? Secondly is you need larger infrastructure projects. You need large infrastructure investment in Sinai. You need to build roads, you need to create a special economic zone along the canal area. There's a great deal of investment money that is interested in investing there. Well over $50 billion has come and knocked at the door of Egypt over the past 5, 6, 7 years, requesting that we facilitate as a government here investment in that part of Sinai. And a lot of that is manufacturing. So yes, they are in a simple context right now. There hasn't been a lot of investment in that area. But because their population is relatively small, even moderate investments would very quickly change the economic dynamic in the Sinai for the Bedouin people, but also to invite Egyptians from the other side, from the African part of Egypt, into Sinai and be able to integrate. So I think really it's two things, as I said. Start by looking at what's been looked at in the past, and then look at the larger infrastructure projects and special economic zones that can be constructed, particularly along the canal and also along the north coast near El Arish.
Right, the past and the present definitely are co-linked. And we need all hands on. The role of religious figures is, of course, very important also at this juncture when we try to contain the situation and call for unity and solidarity. An issue or an incident like the Sinai incident brings here a stronger message of how we are even yearning at this juncture, this critical juncture, mainly for a sense of unity. This coming report highlights Al-Azhar role. We'll talk also about the church role in containing tensions in the country right after this report.
Over the past week, however, several controversial moves have sparked a public confrontation over Al-Azhar and the future of Egypt's religious establishment. The battle for Al-Azhar could have profound repercussions for Egypt's Islamic policies and for the broader world of Sunni Islam. Al-Azhar University, the oldest Sunni Muslim educational institution in the world, dominates Egypt's mainstream Islamic institutions. Al-Azhar establishment have been viewed inside and outside Egypt as tolerant, welcoming of Egypt's engagement with modernity, and respectful of pluralism within or without Islam. Most Egyptian non-Islamist political forces recognize the importance of moderate religious institutions as Al-Azhar in a country where religion is important for most of the Egyptian population. Al-Azhar enjoys the confidence of nearly all Egyptians. Moreover, non-Islamist political forces consider Al-Azhar to be a bulwark against the most politicized Muslim Brotherhood or the puritanical Salafis who seek to dominate the post-January 25 religious space. Al-Azhar has taken central stage at several key moments in the revolution. The first was the day after the resignation of Hosni Mubarak, when Sheikh Al-Azhar announced that the Azhar scholars would choose his successor and any other successor after that, and instead of the President of the Republic. This followed long-standing criticism that Al-Azhar suffered from reliance on the state and enjoyed little independence vis-à-vis the regime. The next moment came with the issuance of a constitutional principles document, which was built on the basis of consensus with many different political forces in society, with Al-Azhar acting as the convener. Not long thereafter, nearly after political and civil force in the country declared Al-Azhar, including the Muslim Brotherhood and most of Salafi movements, to be the Islamic frame of reference, the new round of controversy began when a well-known Salafi cleric tweeted that he had been approached by Prime Minister Hisham Qandil to be the new Minister of Religious Endowments and had accepted the post. Such a new minister could encourage the official propagation of Salafism on the grassroots level through the imams and mosque under the ministry school, rather than maintain the traditional Azhari approach. There were another unconfirmed reports that the new government was considering appointing a Muslim Brotherhood leader as Mufti in due course, another key role within the religious establishment of the Egyptian Republic. The next logical and final step would be to install a Salafi in the role of Sheikh Al-Azhar, or to put in another way, to Salafize the Azhar's establishment leadership.
Well, since we're talking about more than one headline, of course, it was quite debatable also throughout the last weeks. The debate came defining the relationship between the state and religion at this important juncture in the country's history. Dr. Safwat.
I think Egypt has a special taste, special role, special place. For Christians in the Middle East, the largest Christian community is in Egypt. I think the Christians in Egypt are more than all the Christians in the other countries in the Middle East. We lived with our brothers and sisters for 1400 years, and I think they are integrated. You cannot even distinguish between a Muslim or Christian by face or by color. One unit. But for time to time, we feel of some conflicts, and we have to be frank. It is not the habit of the Egyptian. Egyptians are very, very hospitable. We live together, we go to school together, we share the life together. But if no good education, as example, this is my field, so I can really talk about and feel that
it's the bulk, actually.
70% of the problem is coming from education. And I talked many times in several places, even in the parliament once, that we have to rethink of, replan our curriculums. It is not fair to separate the children in even the kindergarten. Go to class, go to another class, because you are Christian and he is a Muslim, don't sit together. You have to be separated. It is not the way of educating people, children. The children don't know the distinguishment. They don't know the differences. They love to live together and play together. So we have to replan our curriculum first, to find good curriculum to build the unity and the fellowship and the companionship, and to be one unit, brothers and sisters together, boys and girls together. We have to replan our curriculum to even the materials. We don't have good education, and we are talking many times about it.
Frankly, yeah.
We depend on memorizing, and then we memorize even in religion, Christianity or Islam. We memorize the materials and we put it in a paper, but we don't live what we learn. And this is the main problem, because we don't live, we don't practice what we learn. Even in the religious material, we memorize, we can recite, we can write, but we cannot live it. And to separate, I think this, we are breaking the personality to learn something and do something else. To be taught something, and in practical, we do something the opposite. So we have to replan our curriculum and materials first. We are not developed. We talk about the past, and we live on the past. We are behind many other countries, even in the area. If you go to other countries in the area, you feel that they are more developed in education than we do. Yeah, we can say our financial, we are crowded, we have crowded classes, in some classes, in some schools, 100 in a class. But we had to plan this 50 years ago, to build the schools, we went to wars and we were affected by the wars, but really our children are victims. Then those children who grow up, they have the conflicts. They don't live together. There is no good examples of leadership. Either in the teachers are not good examples, because they are live under a very humble budget. So they turn the things upside down. The child becomes the boss of the teacher, because he goes to be tutored by a teacher and pay him money. So the teacher became employed by the child. Not the child is employing the teacher, and he is a master. But the teacher became begging the child to come to his home, or he will go to his house to teach him. And this is a disease in the community.
Right.
So many factors like this. No discipline. Even our children are not disciplined well. We don't even teach our parents how to participate with the school in discipline, how to educate the children, to raise them in a better way. I think a lot of care we have to do it for our children first, to raise a good generation who love each other, who live in harmony with their country, to respect their country, to respect their belongings, to respect their land, to respect their materials. They attack things, they break things, because they don't feel that they belong to them.
It's a culture.
It is a culture. So I think we cannot blame the people for problems now, because we didn't raise them very well. We didn't give them their dignity, their opportunity, how to live.
So we need to put the seeds first to be able to reap the fruit.
So the problems we are hearing and seeing, it will not be, they are not the first, they will not be the last. We have to start raising the children, knowing each other, loving each other. I think it takes a long trip, a long journey to do it together for the future of the country. Or otherwise, we are going back.
And it won't be done unless we are all hands-on, actually.
That's right. When they feel that this is their land, this is their school, this is their mosque, this is their church, this is their train or bus or a car, because they got benefit out of it. But if they don't feel that they are getting benefits, why to care for it? They break the glass, they break the trains, they break the buses, because they don't feel that they are not getting benefits out of it. So I think we have to replan, train our teachers how to deal with children, the parents how to deal with their parents. If the school and the house can cooperate together, we can raise a very good generation. Our children are a gift. We are gifted by God for the children. How we can care for this gift? Do we going to reap
So
the
again, the key point here is care if we need to reap the fruit, and this is calling to what we are talking about concerning Sinai and Sinai people and the sense of awareness. General Magdi, I will pick a very important word, the skills of leadership, from what Dr. Bayaddi was talking about. And I guess that the people of the army are quite skilled in leadership skills. So tell us more about how the army is a school in leadership skills.
Okay. Before I start to reply this question, I agree with Dr. Safwat for everything, and he covered most of the elements of the problem.
Right.
And also, I just to add it something. The problem, we can find the problem from between any two Muslims, and it can pass, no problem about it. And it's a problem, big problem, and it's okay, it's exactly like this problem. But when this is the same problem for any kind of, for any reasons, you can, between Muslims and Copts, you can, some people as ignore people, as Dr. Safwat, the education is very important, and to how to know very important people, to how to raise the people for principle, and we live for a long time ago, for 1400 years, in very peaceful and very responsible and very respectable. We respect each others, and we can't feel a difference between Copts and the Muslims in our generation. Yeah. We can't find that. We never seen that. But maybe from 20 years or something like that, we started to hear something between Copts and Muslims, and this is because somebody tried to make this a problem. Because the problem between Muslims and Copts is a problem, but between Muslim and Muslim, even the same problem, same everything. It's it can pass, or between Copts and Copts also, it can pass, no problem about it. This is there is somebody or some hands, hide hands, it's play.
That wants to foment tensions.
That we have to be curious,
fully aware.
Aware of. That's right.
Right.
About the discipline and the leadership, this is it's a big issue, and we start in military. We established this is a base to in our life in military, for respect and to discipline and leadership. It's kind of our life. That's the reason we belong on. We raised for this principle. And it is not coming as a doctor in force or something like that. No, it's we discuss, and we have opportunity to
belief
talk,
as well.
and in this, and after that, after we discuss and everybody give his opinion, we agree that in the end, the decision or the leadership, when you say his decision, we agree about that. This is we raise about that. This is our customs also, our culture in military also, as you say.
Right. Mr. Bastawi, management once again, and of course with the calling economically, what is happening in Sinai, that was because also there was a mismanagement problem, and for 4 decades it has been happening on solid grounds. Your comment on that?
I think that we're at a stage in Egypt's current political history that's very interesting when you talk about leadership, when you talk about the different things we're seeing happening in the country. The country is vulnerable right now. It's vulnerable externally and it's vulnerable internally. And the greatest mistake that the country can make right now, that different communities can make right now, is to see themselves as different communities. It's for us exactly what the Dr. Reverend was saying, and also what General Magdi was saying. And when you look at, I would completely agree and concur that this is a generational issue. It begins with children, and it really runs the spectrum. It's not just a matter of how people deal with each other based on their different perspectives of life. It's the fact that if you want to drive a car and you want to know that the cars in front of you are going to stay in a straight line and then nobody's going to just come in between two cars and break the law, it starts with children that stand in line when they're at school because they're taught that that's what you do because that's the right thing, and they explain to them why. So there are so many things that if we could look at it that way. Leadership today, where we are right now, and if we look at the management of the country and so forth, leadership demands the ability to break with the majority. Leadership requires the ability to know when something is right and when something is wrong, and not to fall into the temptation of trying to appeal to a mass population's desire to move one way or another. And right now in Egypt, we need that kind of leadership on so many levels.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right, you are, Mr. Akram, and it's a key, Dr. Reverend, if we're talking about a committee, of course, that has been formed from members of the Shura Council, also from Al-Azhar and the church together. You came and put brains in order to put an end to any sort of tensions. How far we do need this presence and the role of the religious figures in the coming period to contain any sort of tensions? We've witnessed the Hashur. Previously there were other incidents as well. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about the plan of action.
You see, I have my own experience. Almost 20 years ago, after having some problems in Upper Egypt, I decided, I was writing my dissertation at that time, so I decided to take a group of around 80 students, secondary school students. Half of them are Christians, half of them are Muslims. And we went camping for a week. And I was blamed for that and say, you are putting the gas and the fire together? I said, no. I cannot even forget what the people felt. They were coming from different areas, from Upper Egypt, from Asyut and even Luxor, and from Tanta and Cairo, and different culture, different religion. But they lived for a week in a camp. Some of them were coming from a very high standard, but they were living in a camp. You cannot forget the last day, the whole night that the students were crying because they were leaving each other. And we did this every year. Then we built a camp in Sinai. And we used to go. Until now, after January 2011, we didn't go for the problems here, not there. You cannot feel how the people became one solid group. They started to write to each other. After they went to the university, until now, they write to each other. They meet sometimes in different places because they felt that they are one group, one body. It was just a sample of how to integrate the people together, to study together. When they got some lectures and they felt that in some areas they went to see the people living in a very, very humble and in a very low standard in poverty, the students came crying with tears and they said, what can we do? Some of them were children of parliament members, example, and they said, what to do with the parliament, to do something for our people there. We saw people living in a very, very humble way. They need even the bread. So they started to feel the need of the people. I think I took this as example. Our people by nature, they are wonderful. But when they don't see, don't live together, they had what we call something vague about the others. What you are doing there? What the Christians are doing in the church? And the Christians say, what the people are doing in the mosque? But they started to exchange the visit and go and see each other. We need to do things a lot for our generation. People have to be taught well, to live together well. We have to practice what I call practical sermons rather than just speaking and talking. and we separate life from education. I want to see what you are teaching. If I
We
preach,
shouldn't only preach it, we
Yes.
should translate it into action.
I want to see it, to see it moving, to see the people doing what they listen to.
Right.
Not to hatred and how to attack the other, or how to take revenge. I think our people are victims, even the people who are making problems. I usually feel sympathy to those who make the problems, because if they learn enough, if they got something to live on, how can you find a battle for a shirt if they are having the shirt? If some wise people want to solve the problem first, from the first moment, it wouldn't be a big battle and people die and people are stolen and houses were burned because of a small problem. They couldn't find a wise man to solve it from the beginning, from the first point. What we call the fire comes from one match.
Yeah.
Can do a big fire.
Right.
If somebody will put the fire off from the beginning, we avoid a lot of things. We need to even teach our church leaders or mosque leaders, what kind of sermons are we giving the people? Are we talking about 2,000 years ago or about today and tomorrow? We have to change our mission, our message, our way of teaching, our way of preaching. Religious is life, not just education, not just to memorize verses, but to act. Before we say it, we have to live it. If we change our way of thinking, our way of educating, our way of behaving to each other, how to just forgiveness. We don't teach the children to forgive. Sometimes we teach them to take revenge. We are not enemies. Maybe we taught them how to take revenge from our enemies one day because we were fighting in battles. But we are not enemies.
Tolerance.
If we
We need to teach them
tolerance
yeah.
and forgiveness, I think we can live much better and we can solve problems. But we have to change our way of teaching and preaching.
Right. Changing the way of teaching and preaching, General Magdi, changing the way of how we looked to Sinai and its people, maybe changing and looking into our strategies, army-wise and also on the societal level. What's your advice on that note?
We'll stand back again to Sinai. And as a matter of fact, Sinai or our others problem about we recent problem between Qods and
I mean, they are co-linked.
and also the
because
Nubian and
Safwat
this problem it has a
interrelated.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the reason if we study these problems as a whole problems, not part of parts. As I told you, society and the integration as economic and also security and all these parts we can reach to solve the problem. We have Sinai, as doctors and Mr. Doctors also Safwat say, it's very important area and it can protect itself. And it can help whole Egypt economically, because there's a place, the area. It's a very important area, strategic area. It's not less. It's much better than Dubai is. What's called it's Mina Ali or something.
The free zones.
Free zone.
The location.
In Dubai, something like that. Because we have a lot of elements much better. It makes us have advantage than these areas, but policy is a policy, and we can't exploit to this area to get a good benefit from this place, and also the benefits, others benefits from not economically only. is also to prevent any kind of any other countries to looking at this area, because this is is a big diamond, and everybody wants this to get this diamond. If we leave it like that, they put problems like what happened last week, and they make a lot of troubles, more troubles, and we can't. In this case, it will be isolated, and we cannot have control for this area. The other, we have to be
quite honest,
more intelligent and cooperate also.
Right.
Policy, military and policy and economic and for all the branches to study how to exploit or how to get the actual benefit from this area as very, very important area to us.
Right. A final note, Mr. Bastawi, because it's already it's like 11 p.m. I guess I have to end at this note here. But for the big diamond, in one word, the mic is yours.
We just need to look at it as a part of Egypt and stop looking at it as something else.
Right.
That's right.
Well, I guess with this optimistic note, I have to end it here because there is a program coming up shortly. I think very much a very distinguished panel for tonight, discussing Sinai, discussing the ailments of the Egyptian society, co-linked with what is happening in Sinai. I thank very much Dr. Reverend Safwat bayaddi, President of the Evangelical Churches in Egypt. Thank you very much, Dr.
You're
Safwat.
welcome.
And I also thank General Magdi Shehata, the strategic expert for tonight. Thank you, General, for being here. And Mr. Akram Bastawi, our international economic expert for tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And thank you, dear viewers. That was the Daily Debate for tonight. And I'm Taghreed Hussein, thanking you all for watching.